This is the first folding phone that might actually get you to switch to a folding phone. This is the all-new Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 7, and it is the best folding phone that I've ever used. I've had this phone for the last couple weeks. Since its release, I've been using it non-stop, and genuinely, it's incredible for a folding phone. There are some incredible upsides, but also some pretty bad downsides, and we'll talk about all of those in today's video when we find out if the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 7 is worth it. Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 7 just released at the end of July alongside the Z Flip 7, both of which are Samsung's latest flip phones. You've got the more standard, kind of compact candy bar style phone, and then of course the more premium option, the Z Fold 7, which has better tech, better cameras overall, and flips from a phone essentially into a tablet. I've been a huge folding phone fan for years, but what's wild is that I've never actually fully replaced my other phones with the folding phone, and there's a lot of different reasons for that. I mention this in every single one of my phone reviews, but my phone also doubles as a vlogging camera, mainly for my sneaker channel, which is my main channel. If you guys want to check that out, there will be a link in the description below. But I use it as a vlogging camera for thrifting, for sneaker shopping, things like that. Whenever I need to pull out a pretty high resolution camera from my pocket, my phone's there. And realistically, when it comes to all of the phone options on the market, I found that the iPhone 16 Pro Max has been my favorite in terms of video quality and the look of the video. The Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra is an incredible phone, and I did switch to that phone for about a month and I loved it, but I still went back to my iPhone. And that's kind of been the case every single year, especially when using these folding phones, because generally, up until now, these folding phones have had subpar cameras, at least when compared to the more premium options like the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra or the iPhone 16 Pro Max. Well, I guess calling them the more premium options doesn't really make sense because this is the most expensive phone I've ever bought, like straight up. In fact, let's just talk about that right off the bat, because if you cannot afford this phone, it's not worth it for you. So the Fold 7 starts at $1,999, 1 cent off of $2,000 for literally just a phone. And sure, it doubles as a tablet, which could justify it a bit more, especially if you're not spending money on like an iPad or a Samsung Tab or something like that. But it starts at $2,000 for 256 gigabytes. Wild. Now the next jump up gets you 512 gigabytes at $2,119.99, a $120 price bump for double the storage, which I think might be worth it. However, both of these phones, both the 256 and the 512, only come with 12 gigabytes of RAM. And honestly, those are the two phone options that most people will go with. That said, if you want to throw another $200 on top of that and spend $2,419.99, you can get the 1 terabyte Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 7. I hate how long these names are. And in addition to that, you also get 16 gigabytes of RAM. So double the storage and you get 4 extra gigabytes of RAM, which is not a huge performance bump, but it is nice. The problem is the people who are buying this phone are probably going to buy the lowest end version. I bought the 256 gigabyte version because I felt bad about spending $1,999. Realistically, because I pre-ordered it, I got like a $120 price decrease. So I got it for like, 17 something. But still, that's a lot of money. So right off the bat, folding phones can be prohibitive, especially when it comes to the price. And this phone is actually more expensive than last year's Z Fold 6, not because last year's version is on sale, but literally the actual retail price is $100 more. So that's where the premise of this video becomes even more interesting, because now we're trying to figure out if a $2,000 phone is actually worth it for you. Does it offer enough value to make you spend double what you'd spend on maybe a used Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra? But pricing aside, let's talk about some of the great improvements on the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 7 over last year's Z Fold 6. And the first, and quite possibly the most noticeable, is the size. This phone is incredibly thin. When closed, the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 6 measured 12.1 millimeters. When closed, the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 7 measures 8.9 millimeters. Obviously, not including that large camera bump. And it's wild because I literally don't think they can make this phone any thinner if they have a USB-C port, because the phone is ever so slightly larger than the USB-C port. Short of cutting notches out of the side of the device or maybe not having a port at all, this phone is pretty much the thinnest it'll ever be. Again, not including the camera hump. That could probably get smaller. And I've got to say, this thinness feels incredible. It almost doesn't feel real. It feels like you're holding, a very thin, I have a daughter, she's really little. We read a lot of those like cardboard page books. It feels like a couple pages in a cardboard page book, maybe like 2 pages, which is wild. It's like 2 pages of a book. I realize it's cardboard versus paper, but still, that's pretty crazy. It also opens and closes like a book. So, it's an interesting parallel. It means nothing. But the thinness of this device is shocking, especially when you consider the upgraded specs, the battery, and some of the other things that we'll talk about. Continuing on with some of the pretty large improvements, the front display of this phone is now 6.5 inches. It feels like a regular phone when you're using it, which is wild. And I found that over the last week and a half to 2 weeks of me using this phone, I didn't use the internal screen as much as as I thought that I would, which is interesting in two ways. One, it's great because you're able to answer phone calls, respond to text messages, even watch videos on this front screen. But if you're mainly only using the front screen, then why did you buy a $2,000 phone? Now, the front 6.5-inch display is a dynamic AMOLED 2X display, and it looks incredible. And compared to last year's phone, this one can now get up to a brightness of 2600 nits. So whether you're looking at it inside or outside, it's bright. It's really, really bright. Plus, it's capable of 120 Hz, so all that swiping feels buttery smooth. This front display also now features Gorilla Glass Ceramic 2, which is incredibly durable. There are no scratches whatsoever after weeks use of wear without actually having a case on this phone, because I felt like a case would make the thinness not as exciting, because I want excitement when I'm using my phones, especially a $2,000 phone. The one problem is it is reflective. Now, one thing I really loved about the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra is that that phone's display had some sort of anti-reflective coating, or I forget exactly what it was, but it didn't reflect really much at all, especially when compared to other devices. This phone, no, this is a reflective boy. This dude, like, a light hits it and it basically says, hey, do you want to see this light as if you were looking into the light directly? And that's basically what happens. I guess it's not worse than some of the other regular glass phones out there, but it's not the best. And when we know what they can do with the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra, kind of sucks to have a more standard display on the outside. But the front screen obviously is not the reason why you're buying this phone. The reason you are buying this phone is for the brand new 8-inch dynamic AMOLED 2X display on the inside, which looks incredible. Like the front display, it's also capable of 120 Hz, and it gets up to 2600 nits peak brightness, so it's also a great display when you're outside because you can see everything really, really well. And something else that's really nice is that although this screen is reflective, it's not as reflective as the front display. And man, it is gorgeous. It looks incredible. This is like truly a tablet competitor. The aspect ratio obviously is a little weird, but honestly, still really great. And for any kind of media consumption or editing reels or TikToks or anything that you want to do on your smartphone, this is the ideal way to do it. Oh, and actually one thing I really like about this size is that while yes, it is 8 inches, I can still pretty easily one-hand it. Now I've got, I'd say medium to large hands, maybe even just like average size man hands. They're not huge, and I can grab it with no issue. Hopefully that clip is not taken out of context. But now let's talk about a question that I'm sure a lot of you have, and that is, how bad is the crease? Well, compared to previous Z Fold devices, it's really not bad at all. The only time that you can really see it is in direct light like this. When I'm just in my house, or maybe even outside if it's not in direct sunlight, you barely even notice it, and you can't really even feel it that much. Obviously, it is there, it is noticeable, but it's really not gonna be a problem for you. Now, apparently the reason the crease has gotten better is because of the brand new Armor Flex hinge. Not only does this hinge make the crease less noticeable, but it also makes this phone more durable. Unlike last year's Z Fold 6, this phone is now IP48 water and dust resistant, which essentially means it can handle a little bit deeper depths than it could previously for a little bit longer time, and it's a bit more dust resistant. This is not a phone you want to take to the beach at all, which kind of sucks because everyone pretty much needs to take their phone to the beach. So, you know, if you go to the beach a lot, maybe this isn't the phone for you. But compared to last year's phone, it is more durable. One small thing that kind of bugs me is the fact that this phone actually can't fold fully flat. There is a minor angle in there. And I mean, it's barely noticeable. It's probably because of the way that they're trying to block out dust, or maybe it's the way that the hinge works, I don't know, but it doesn't actually go fully flat. That being said, because of how big the camera bump is, trying to put this thing down on a table, whether it's open or closed, it's gonna rock a bunch anyway. So the fact that it's not fully flat, not a big deal. You don't even really notice it. It's only if you like look at it from the side, you're like, is that fully open? Yeah, I think it is. It's really impressive how thin they're able to make this phone with how big of a display you've got on the inside and on the outside. It's honestly incredible, and it makes this phone only slightly thicker than the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra, which is amazing. However, for some people out there, there is a pretty major downside of the thinness, and that's the fact that this no longer comes with an S Pen. I mean, to be honest, like, where would you put it? It's so thin it wouldn't actually go anywhere. And to be real with you, as an actual designer, like an industrial designer who's designed a shoe, check it out, let me show you guys. Right here, this is a 3D printed shoe. It's releasing at the end of August. Check it out. Maybe I'll do a full video on this channel about it. But as someone who sketches a lot, I never sketch on my phone. I sketch on my tablet, I sketch on paper, I sketch on a Wacom tablet, both iPad and Wacom tablet. You know, if you're familiar with sketching tablets, you know what those are. But I never really found myself taking notes or sketching on my phone. So for me, not a huge omission, and you can actually still use styluses on this device. I think certain styluses, I'm not sure which ones are compatible, but you can use them. However, it doesn't come with one. And I get for a device that opens up this wide, it would be nice to have a stylus, but at the end of the day, it's a trade-off. People wanted a thinner phone, they got the much thinner phone, but it doesn't come with an S Pen. Now, surprisingly, even with this unbelievably thin form factor, this phone still has a 44 milliamp hour battery inside. It's actually the same size battery that you have in the Fold 6, but it lasts longer because there are these new AI optimizations which actually help this phone run more efficiently. It's pretty incredible if you ask me, and it gets about 24 hours of battery life through standard use. Now, realistically, that translates to about 5 to 6 hours of regular heavy use of like actually looking at the display, using it for Instagram or YouTube or playing games or whatever the case may be. Actually, I'm kind of surprised by this, but on Samsung's website, website, they say it's capable of 24 hours of video playback time, which is more than I think is real. I think that might be a slightly inflated. I'm sure they were able to do it in some sort of crazy test where like the phone was at 0 brightness or whatever. I don't know. I found that it lasted me generally all day through normal use, and then just sitting around standby time, I got like a day and a half, 2 days. It was fine. It was enough. It wasn't as good as the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra. Obviously, it wasn't as good as my iPhone, but it was good. And it's better than last year's Z Fold 6 with the same battery, which is crazy. Now, when it comes to charging, you can get up to 25 watts of wired charging and 15 watts of wireless charging. It's also capable of 4.5 watts reverse charging. Like maybe if you want to charge your other phone, maybe your iPhone, or maybe your wife has a phone or something, you want to charge that, slap it on there, and you can charge up to 4.5 watts. And realistically, I know this all sounds like pretty regular specs, but at the end of the day, you have to remember that it's going in a phone that's this thin. Like when you think about it through that lens, it's wild. Now powering this device, we've got the Snapdragon 8 Elite for Galaxy, which is a very powerful chip, and actually that paired with the RAM makes this, I believe, around 36 to 35% faster than the Z Fold 6. And from my own personal testing of playing games and watching YouTube videos and just using the phone how I'd use it, it did feel a little bit snappier. I don't know if I could actually quantify it as like 36% snappier, but it did feel snappier. It handled all of the games that I wanted it to handle. It didn't stutter, even with full screen on, like even when I was playing racing games on this full screen, it looked great, no problems whatsoever. Now this phone is still a little bit slower than the S25 Ultra, so if you're looking for that peak performance, maybe get that phone instead. That phone's also $1,200 brand new. So I mean, really the reason you get this phone over that phone is because you want the screen. That's the whole reason you get this phone in general. But still, it's a very powerful device. It's essentially flagship specs and it works great. Plus that folding noise is just as good as it always was. Now, side note, you may have noticed me doing this throughout the review, but it's not the easiest phone to open up. There's like no ridges in there to really grab it. Like you can use your fingernails to kind of grab in there like that, but I generally try and just use my fingers and press really hard and open it like that. And you can't open it one-handed. There's just no way. Like, yeah, you can't open it one-handed. Some of the previous Fold devices, some of the older ones that had gaps in the middle or maybe had different edges were easier to open. It is what it is. I mean, I kind of have the same issue with the Flip 7. It's slightly easier to open because it's a slightly thicker device. I mean, look at the thickness difference between these two phones. That's kind of crazy. Plus, this one has some rounded edges, so it's a bit easier to kind of get your fingers in there to open it. Not the easiest phone to open in the world. Before I finish talking about the industrial design of this phone, I want to cover one more thing, and that's the brand new frame. This new frame is called the Advanced Armor Aluminum frame, and even though it's supposedly more durable than the Flip 6, it also is still very lightweight. I haven't really dropped this phone, and I definitely didn't drop it on purpose, but I will say that so far so good. I'm sure there are drop tests out there from like Jerry Rig Everything or people like that who are willing to really damage this phone and test out the frame, but from my own personal experience for the last 2 weeks, no issues whatsoever, no bends, no scuffs, no issues. But now let's talk about cameras, one of my favorite parts of any phone, and this phone actually has, I think, like 5 cameras. You've got a front-facing punch hole camera on the external screen of the device. On the inside screen, you've got another punch hole camera right there. They are both 10 megapixels, and they're both fine. They're selfie cameras, they're okay. They unlock the phone for you, that's all you can really ask for. I guess you can also FaceTime with them if you'd like. But the back of the phone in this giant camera bump is where things get really exciting. The two sort of specialty lenses on this phone are still the same from last year's camera, I believe. You've got the 10 megapixel telephoto and the 12 megapixel ultra wide. However, the main camera is now the 200 megapixel wide angle camera that you get on the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra. It comes with OIS and all the AI improvements and enhancements that you would like, and it's beautiful. The ultra wide and the telephoto are fine. They get the job done. I know I said in previous videos that I like vlogging with the ultra wide camera because it makes actually getting my face in frame a lot easier when you can't see the screen. Now, what's incredible about a flip phone like this is that you can actually use the flip screen as the viewfinder and use the main camera as your camera, which means you can use the viewfinder to frame yourself up. So it's not as important to have that wide angle lens unless you're trying to film something really big, which I love. I really, really love the fact that I can look right at the lens, film like this, what's up guys, and see myself and make sure I'm in frame. That's such a huge thing that the iPhone doesn't have, and it can't have unless there's a flipping iPhone, which may come out, but still, really, really incredible feature. I love it. So I did some pretty extensive testing of these cameras, even though I've pretty much used them all before, just to show you guys what you can expect from your Samsung Galaxy Fold 7 in terms of camera quality. First off, let's talk about the photos. And the photos look really great, especially from that 200 megapixel camera. They're very clear, they're very crisp. You've got some AI optimizations. You can add blurriness and things like that. You can remove things from the photos, which are incredible. Color is great. Low light photos are also solid. Here's some comparisons against iPhone photos. The phone that I've been comparing this to was the iPhone 16 Pro Max. You guys can have some idea how it stacks up against that phone, which I think has one of the best cameras out there. One of the biggest, I guess, pluses that Samsung phones or Samsung cameras have over iPhone cameras is their zoom capabilities. They can zoom crazy far. Now, obviously a lot of that has pixelation and there's gonna be some sort of AI guessing as to what's actually in the picture, but you can zoom crazy far and like say, maybe there's a sign very far down the road, like for example, the photos that you guys are seeing now that you wanna be able to read, you can zoom into it and read it. With the iPhone, yeah, you can zoom pretty well, but you just can't zoom as far. And from what I found, generally, the quality of the farthest zoom on the Samsung phone, which zoomed like 10 times farther, is still about the same as the quality of the farthest zoom on the iPhone camera. Now, when it comes to photos, specifically on that 200 megapixel camera, it really depends on what you prefer. You can see right now what the iPhone 16 Pro Max's camera looks like and what the Samsung's camera looks like, and you can decide which camera you prefer the look of more. Obviously, this is without any kind of editing or anything like that. This is from the camera. It's not a raw photo, but it's what the camera would automatically output. Realistically, they're both great. I mean, here's some portraits in sort of a low light setting. They also look great. Obviously, because I'm a YouTuber, I had to test out the video quality. So here's some shots in a room with a dehumidifier going to add some of that white noise to kind of see if the audio was any good. So here's an example of the Samsung and then the iPhone. So this is a vlog test for the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 7. How does it look? How does it sound? Of course, we've got the dehumidifier going on in the background. We also are using the main camera. How does it look? Let me know in the comments. Does it beat the iPhone? Does it beat the Flip? Let me know. All right, so this is how I look and sound with the iPhone 16 Pro Max. We've got a dehumidifier in the room, so you got a bit of fuzzy noise. How's the noise canceling? How's the sound compared to the other camera? Let me know in the comments. Which one did you like better? Let me know in the comment section down below. I think they're both fine. Obviously, the main camera is the way to go when you want to film video on this phone. I think that's pretty clear. And it looks great. You can shoot S-Log if you want. I didn't do that for this test. I've done it for other Samsung phones, and it's great if you like S-Log. It does mean you're gonna have to do some extra post-processing work, and if that's something you're into, great. I have found though, personally, for YouTube, I mean, you don't need to film in S-Log. It takes up so much storage space too. You can film in your regular settings, post it up on YouTube, and in a lot of cases, people won't even realize it's not DSLR. The camera quality on phones now is unbelievable. Now, I will say, if you are planning to vlog on your phone, invest in some sort of external microphone. That's gonna make a huge difference. I think audio is one of the most important things when it comes to YouTube videos. I have this really nice Sennheiser mic in my studio that I use for everything. I personally think people will look past not so well shot video if the audio is clear. On the flip side of the coin, if you've got incredible visuals but terrible audio that people can't listen to, no one's gonna watch that video. So realistically, I think that audio is probably the most important thing. But camera quality is also important. And as you've seen, this phone is very capable. Again, like all other Samsung devices, you've got a bunch of AI features and things that you can use, like circle to search, which is great. I think specifically for the camera now, you have like AI tracking, which is cool. It kind of automatically tracks your face, kind of like how a DJI Osmo 3 would do. There's a lot of cool features, none of which I really use that often. The most that I ever use one is probably circle to search, and I use that relatively frequently, like once or twice a week. But generally, I mean, AI is AI. It gets the job done when you need it, but I wouldn't say buy a phone because you like the AI features better on that phone. Yet, maybe things will get better. Now, something pretty cool about these new foldable Samsung devices is that they both come with Android 16 with One UI 8, which means that you're actually getting the latest software on this phone versus the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra, which doesn't have the latest version, at least not in non-beta, or I guess the full version. So if you're stoked to try Android 16 with One UI 8, grab one of these for $2,000. I don't see much of a difference, but that's just me. Let me know in the comment section down below what features you like of Android 16 and One UI 8 over the previous ones. I'm sure there are some, I haven't used them. So after 2 weeks of using this phone genuinely is the best folding phone I've ever used. It's got the best camera on a folding phone that I've ever used. It's incredibly powerful. It's got an excellent battery life. The screen looks amazing. Like, this is an incredible looking screen, and the crease isn't that bad. The biggest improvement for me though, besides the camera, is the front screen. The fact that it's essentially a regular phone size, which means that you can use this for basically all the phone things that you need to do, which is great. Again, you know, it kind of takes away the need to open your phone as much as you probably should if you're spending $2,000 on a phone, but that's a huge improvement, and I love the fact that it's there. The thinness is truly unbelievable. It's almost shocking. The camera bump, yeah, kind of sucks, but realistically, most of the phone is super thin, and you will probably be putting a case on this anyway, so that'll probably hide some of the camera bump and also remove some of the thinness, so that's a thing that you got to think about as well. But generally, the industrial design of this phone is gorgeous. I think this is the best foldable phone out there, personally. I know there's a lot of great options from other brands that are maybe not US brands. I know this isn't a US brand, but are not available in the United States that I haven't been able to try, but honestly, it's incredible. And I think if there was any foldable phone that would get me to switch from my iPhone, this would be it. As to whether I will actually switch from my iPhone, I think the iPhone still got it, mainly because it's got the better cameras overall. Mainly because that's the phone that I use to vlog with. As much as I love the fact that you've got the viewfinder there, the better cameras just do it for me. And that's a personal preference, honestly. That's purely a personal preference. I think for a lot of iPhone users out there who aren't tied into iOS, this is a really great phone to go with. And it's almost as powerful as the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra, which I would say is the best Android phone out there in general. So if you've been thinking about getting a folding phone, this is the best one. But to answer the question, is the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 7 worth it? Well, it all comes down to whether you're willing to spend $2,000 on a phone. If you are looking for a phone that doubles as a phone and a tablet, and you're gonna use this all the time in an opened mode or an opened way, then yeah, I think it's worth it. I think what you're getting is absolutely worth it. I think it's the best folding phone out there, and if you have the money to spend on it, you're probably not gonna regret it. Or if you don't think you're gonna use this folding screen that much, then no, it's not worth it. Or in my case, say you want like the best of the best cameras, or you want the best of the best processor, or the best of the best battery. There are other phones out there that do those things better. But if you're looking for the best of the best foldable phone, in my opinion, this is it. And based on sales numbers and pre-order numbers, it seems like a lot of people are agreeing. And this may be the first fold device that gets mass adoption. I mean, they're already pretty popular now, but I mean like really popular, to where you see like multiple people a day using this phone. I see maybe one person every week using this phone, but that's it. I think this phone could become a much more standard phone. And if they drop the price point, you get this form factor, but at the price point of this phone, shoot, I think it's over at that point. But hey, let me know your thoughts on the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 7 in the comment section down below. As always, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't yet, and I will see you all in the next one.